Have you guys seen the pilot yet?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Because sometimes I walk into these things and I don't know who saw it. So
We did see that.
okay, cool.
So,
And we liked it.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
So
Okay,
can't
and I
name
think I'm gonna.
Cuban?
No,
No?
just go ahead.
It's not way.
I'm recording.
Okay.
It's
Audio.
recording? Oh,
It's
okay.
not recording.
I could send you the video.
Say hold up
Perfecto. So
I'll share my video with you.
thank you, darling.
for a price. All right, no, go ahead. That's fine.
We
Never know.
got backup here, okay?
Yeah.
Back
So
up.
in the pilot, we see your connection instantly with Noah.
Yep.
How do you hope the connection plays out throughout this season?
I think if there's no connection, there's no show, right? I mean, it has to keep going. And the cool thing about when you first get a gig and you're like you have a love interest, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, right? So like I first met Natalie, and one of the cool things about her is that she's Australian, and I think Australians are like so cool, and she was also open to like new ideas when we started shooting. Like we didn't stick to everything on the page, but we did and we didn't. Did she tell you the dance story?
No.
No.
Oh, so you know the dance? You know the dance scene when we started dancing in the club?
That was cute.
Yeah, that wasn't even scripted.
Oh.
That was because we had already been shooting for a week and we like started to get to know each other, and like we had already shot a bunch of scenes. And then there was this club scene and we're like, we feel like something's missing. And then we were both like, why don't we do a dance scene? Because in between takes leading up to that scene, she and I would always like dance salsa, or like just like in between, because you're waiting for a new setup, you're waiting for a new shot. So she's like, why don't we just dance how we usually dance when we're waiting, for the new shot? Why don't we just add a new scene where we're just dancing? And that was never scripted, that dance scene. But that was just one of the cool things about in terms of connection and like having chemistry with someone, that you're allowed to like do cool stuff like that and add stuff, especially on a network television show, which is always like scripted and like you got to do exactly what they say, what's written.
Yeah, we heard you guys love to dance.
Yeah, Dan said you're
Well,
all good
that was
dancers.
that was the reason why that scene was added in it. It wasn't even in the pilot. It was one of my favorite scenes, and that was the first time on film out of the things that I've done that I've ever danced in front of a camera. So I was like mad nervous. I was like, she was like, because when I'm dancing, so I'm dancing, like I didn't know this until I was caught on camera filming. But when I was dancing, I like to most times look down, and she was always like, look up, look at me, and I was just like, I was so scared, but it was so funny. It worked out.
It actually looked really nice.
Yeah, thank you. That took like take number 20 to get it right, but I got it right. Yeah.
So now you're part of an all Latino cast.
Yes.
How is that experience?
It was super cool. It was one of the few times that I got to work on a all Latino cast, because I did. I was lucky enough to do the Che Guevara movie with Benicio, but that was like I don't know 12, 13 years ago, and it was like a cast of like I don't know 300, and like there was no secondary parts, but it was cool to be a part of like an all Latino cast. This is the first time that, first of all, that I'm the lead of a TV show, and also that I got to lead this ensemble cast. And the cool thing is that it's not just about like what we're trying to do, like just being an all Latino cast, because there's not that much on TV representing us. But it was also that we know like how it transcends just the storyline, right? It transcends that it's just a baker and the beauty. It's all about also the multi-national cast that we have. My family's from the Dominican Republic. Natalie, I'm sure she told you that, Peruvian and Australia. Is it Peru? Yeah.
Yeah.
Born in Peru, raised in Australia.
Australia, exactly. I can name the whole cast, but Michelle's from Ecuador, Carlos Gómez is from Cuba, Lisa Vidal is Boricua, and the guy who plays my brother David Del Rio is Cuban, Colombian, and Belissa is Mexican. LA, by the way, like from Echo Park, fool. I should have to say, fool. So it's cool. So I think what's cool about it, to answer your question, is that not only are we telling the cool story that I think every ethnicity is gonna relate to one way or another, but the simple fact that I think we're hoping that we transcend and create a trend that like we're here, you know what I mean? Like Latinos are here, and our stories are just as relatable as white, black, Chinese, whatever,
I remember looking at the show and I'm thinking, damn, look at Cam get hit.
I know, you love that show. I know, I remember you saying that.
I was like,
Was the last time I saw you was at TCAs, right? Yeah, TCAs, yeah.
I was like,
you had like a jersey though, right? You had
yeah.
You had something that was more colorful, like a Averex.
I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah.
Well, it's.
No, I remember it was cool. I was like, oh, that's a cool. I thought it was a jersey. But what was your question?
So I'm wondering, how do you feel about ABC putting this much trust in you being a mid-season show?
To be honest, if you ask me personally, I don't. look, to answer your question earlier, Becky, like I remember when you were asking me like how important it is to be a Latino cast, right? Like that alone is, and being on network, I think is super. It's a huge deal, right? Like it's a huge deal. It is. That's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
So for me personally, if you're asking Victor Rasuk, the actor, like I think it's a big deal that we're on ABC. Period. It doesn't matter if we're mid-season or fall. I don't know all the terms what they are, but it doesn't matter to me when we are. I just think it's super important that we are on the air. So to answer your question, it's not important to me when we are. It's just that we are on the air. Period. Like as long as I know it's like April 13th, we're out and we're gonna be shown. It doesn't matter. It could have been December 13th, whenever. I think it's super important that we are on the air, because otherwise, how do we represent, right?
It was a Mexican.
It was what? Oh yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was.
But I like what you said about everybody, the different countries, because there's such, I think, a trend here. Someone says, "Oh, you're Latino." They think you're automatically from Mexico, and that's it. Which I'm like, no. There's so many different cultures.
Yeah.
It's not just one culture.
Yeah, and not only that too. To add to your point, like I think also, I don't know if you guys know this, but we just finished shooting in Puerto Rico. We shot the whole season in Puerto Rico.
The crew was...
And to have that flavor, like our crew, I come
awesome.
to set and I'd be like, oh, you're loco, pero que lo que? It's cool to just already come to work before cameras started rolling, and I'm already being like, oh, yeah, que lo que? And I can get to do what I do Dominican, but then when the cameras turn on, like I try to put as much as what I can learn from Carlos, who's really Cuban, all his like lingo, or, and try to keep the Miami dialect, so to speak, into the show. But it's cool to have, when your cameraman and your, the PAs and everybody are all Boricua, and like, so it was cool to like, not only that we're a multi, I guess, national cast, but also that we're already shooting in Puerto Rico.
That's so cool.
It was cool. It was super cool, and I think it plays a huge part in the vibe of our first season. I know you guys only saw the first episode, but when you see the whole season, I think if you Latin, you see a little more of the like nuances. But
And
anyway,
I think that's one of the things that I really loved about it, because that's basically us as Latinos in our everyday life. Like you're switching from Spanish to English.
Yes.
Your mom is speaking Spanish.
Yes.
But I love that they put that they left her speaking Spanish.
And with the subtitles.
And putting the subtitles.
I love that
Because
too.
it's something
Yeah,
that I hate from other shows or other movies where, she's struggling to speak English per se. And, I would much rather see the Spanish because I identify more with it, and then just the subtitles, because I'm like, anyone else can just read it.
100%. And by the way, I was just as shocked as you guys were when we saw it. So when I first saw the pilot, we knew what we shot, and we knew that especially Lisa and Carlos did a lot of Spanish and a lot of like improv, I guess. But we were like, oh, the back of our mind, we're like, that's gonna get cut out. That's gonna get chopped out. And then when we saw it, not only did it not get chopped out, but then they got the subtitles. So it was cool. I give so much, like, I'm so grateful, and I think I speak for my cast. We're so grateful and happy that ABC and NBC took a chance on this show. And kind of letting us do our thing for the most part. Because, I've been lucky to work on HBO and, like, other networks or, I guess, cable shows that, like, they're a little bit more, like, they let you do your thing, HBO. But, like, in this one, I'm not saying that they let us go free-for-all. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. But they definitely put a lot of trust in this show in terms of allowing us to put little things like that,
And now for my next question.
Yes.
Boricua, I want to ask you, how was your experience filming on the island?
In Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
I love Puerto Rico. I feel like I was born in Puerto Rico.
I you're Dominican.
I get that. Yeah, I get that all the time. I was born and raised in New York, but I get that all the time. Like everybody who first is introduced to me, and then they go, "Oh, are you Puerto Rican?" And then I'm like, "I look Puerto Rican," and then my Spanish is super New Yorican because I grew up.
Because you're from New York.
Yeah, and I grew up in a Puerto Rican neighborhood in New York. I didn't grow up in like Washington Heights, which is where a lot of Dominicans grew up. But to answer your question, I love Puerto Rico not only because I have such a since I was a kid, my best friends are Puerto Ricans, mostly my girlfriends growing up were Puerto Rican, but also I shot 3 projects there. So I spent so much time in Puerto Rico when I shot Chair with Benicio, and then I shot this other movie, this film that J-Lo produced called Feel the Noise, which was like a reggaeton movie. It wasn't that great, but we shot that there. But I had a lot of fun shooting there, and I got to learn a lot. I got to learn a lot about not only Puerto Rican culture, but almost my own culture too. I felt more confident because I grew up with such broken Spanish because my mom only spoke Spanish. But then when I went home, when I went to school and everyone else, I mostly spoke English. So when I got to PR, it forced me to learn Spanish, but then also be confident about what being Latin is and our music and the history. So it was cool. So I got a really, really special place. Puerto Rico has a special place in my heart, and especially that we got to shoot it again for 5 months, this TV show.
So,
Like I legit feel like I'm Boricua. For real.
so felicidades, because I know you guys celebrated Independence Day in the Dominican Republic.
We did, yeah. And then now what's going on now?
Yeah.
I got a couple of friends, Zoe Saldana being one of them, who is like super. I think she went, or I think she's gonna go and protest. But they've been telling me to go. But the thing is, I just finished the show, and then now I'm here. So I'm trying to figure out if some more protesting needs to happen. Also, because my family lives down there too. My dad lives down there. My aunts and my cousins. But yeah, sorry, what were you gonna say? You were saying, yeah, felicidades, but
for the independence celebrated recently. I was wondering if you had time to partake in any festivities, out here or back home with your parents.
In terms of what?
In terms of the independence.
No, because I was in Puerto Rico
the whole time.
The whole time.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, so I had no family, and there's this. I didn't realize this until the end when I was shooting in Puerto Rico. But there's like a lot of Dominicans that live in PR.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that until the end. I was like, oh, there's
You're like, now I find them.
Yeah, now I find them. Yeah, but also like it wasn't about finding them. It's like I was, shooting 14 hours a day. Well, no, not only that, but like I was literally busy shooting the show because I'm almost in every scene in Baker and the Beauty. So, but yeah, I mean, I didn't get to this year. But
you just got back.
I just got back, but in the past I have, of course. But this year I didn't. Yeah, because my dad is all about that. Like, he got that DR pride, even though he doesn't live here. But like, we talk on the phone, and he's always like, "Oye, hijo, ¿qué tú vas a hacer allá en LA? Like, there's no Dominicans here."
I'm gonna go see Aventura.
Yeah, Aventura. Who just got back together, right? They just got as a group.
Did you get to go when they were here in LA, or
I didn't.
You were out there?
I was filming. Dude, I'm telling you, I missed everything. I've been gone for 5 months.
Yeah.
I'm like seeing LA for the first time. Like, yo, the palm tree, because PR is so hot. So when you come here, obviously you guys know the weather's so nice here.
Yeah.
But yo, it gets so humid in PR.
Oh,
and then we went through the earthquakes too. So we were kind of like, the cast was kind of like, we ready to get home.
Yeah.
Like we shot through all that and we wrote it out, the earthquakes. But I think at the end we were like, all right, it's time to get to our respective homes.
Shoot. So TCA was your first time back in LA?
Yeah, so I saw you for a minute.
Yeah.
I saw you for like 2 days, and then as soon as I saw you, I flew right back. Yeah, and then I've been there since. I think I got back yesterday, or the day before.
Oh,
the day
wow.
before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Crazy.
Yeah,
The earthquakes happened after I saw you.
Yeah. They got you going like this.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
bro, it's a machine. I'm trying to get the show out there. We're all trying to do the.
Was it this crazy when you had to do like the HBO shows or the whipping movie, 50 Shades?
The whipping movie. The whipping movie. I did. That's funny. But sure, I did Miami. Yeah, I did Miami for 50 Shades, and then I did New York for 50 Shades. But for How to Make It in America, I did all that. Yeah, it hasn't been this since How to Make It.
Wow.
Because I was sort of I was the lead with Brian, so we were kind of like. But yeah, 50 Shades, they had me do Miami and then New York, but it wasn't as crazy as How to Make It, and I think this is gonna be. But it's good. I mean, like, right? You want to promote the stuff that you're really passionate about,
Jake Gyllenhaal was quoted as saying he did 81 interviews in one day because he needed to movie to get out there the Endo watch.
What? 81 interviews?
81 interviews.
Dude, after like 10, I'm like, yo, when is this over?
This all counts as one though.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about, when you sit in and then they bring one after the other.
Yeah, at the drug
That's like that takes a skill. But he did 81 of those.
Yeah.
They have 79 after
By
this.
the way, that movie, but it was a dope movie too. Like, yeah, and like that movie was so dope. So of course you want to put out a dope product. And Michael Pena was in that too, right? Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't seen him in anything recently.
Wait, he's just was it
He just
something?
What's he
did
in?
the Spider-Man movie.
No, but he was in something else just now.
Recently.
Fantasy Island?
Oh, he's in that? Oh,
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the, these are
Yeah,
other
of
good
course.
things.
I love that.
We're talking about fantasy Island. Well,
Dímelo.
So you play the baker, but I want to know if you're a really good cook in real life.
I am, only because, and I'm not looking at my post. She's like, really? She's like, really?
That's a no.
No, I am. I will, and I've said this already in interviews promoting the show. I think I might have said it when I saw you. I'm a good cook only because I learned in the last few years, and it was through this service called Blue Apron. And hold on. So I became really good because you get, I don't know if you know how it works, but like they bring you the food and all the ingredients, and then they break down how to cook it, right? Step by step. So what happens is that you take, so after you cook it, you keep the menu. So on a random day when you like don't have Blue Apron coming in, you go and shop for those very same things, and you do this, and you get really good at it. And then you throw your little spices in it, and it doesn't have to be exactly how the menu is, but then you start learning how to be confident and doing it your own way. So that's how I became good. Now baking, I'm not great at it. I learned how to do it on the show. Like they made us do like a few baking classes, like with a really dope baker in Puerto Rico that owns a bakery called El Horno. And he came and he was our consultant during the whole time. And I learned how to be better with baking, but I'm not as good at baking as I am with cooking. So I am confident that I'm a pretty good cook.
You would burn our dessert then.
That what?
You would burn our dessert then.
I would not burn the dessert. If anything, it might be undercooked only because I'm so eager of a person. I'm a little bit impatient, but it would never be overcooked.
So you should be doing a collab with Blue Apron.
That doesn't mean that you won't get sick, but it won't be overcooked. Say again.
You should do a collab with Blue Apron, obviously, the Baker, the Beauty Blue Apron edition.
If Blue Apron starts watching this, they might be like, you know what it's like? You know what I think about every time I mention Blue Apron or HelloFresh? Do you remember when Tiffany Haddish did
Groupon.
Yeah.
Yo, and then she got the crazy endorsement. I'm like, yo.
See, it's your new sponsor.
Yeah. Do you remember that though? She did that on Kimmel and she had everybody dying. Yeah.
Tiffany's.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about that.
You ever broken anybody's heart quite the way
Oh.
it happened on the show?
Wow. I thought we were boys, bro.
Breaking hearts.
Yeah, he did bring up the whipping movie. So.
I
I know. You know that whipping movie? 50 Shades of Grey?
They threw great parties, by the way, in LA.
They did.
Leading up to that.
Yeah, they did. Did you go to them?
Yeah. It's a
We
different
didn't meet
story.
back then?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, they kept you secluded.
I know. Did I break? Yeah, I guess, right? As a kid, I mean, as a teenager, I'm sure I did. And I got my heart broken too, but
my Lord.
not that I'm playing the victim. But yeah, I think, I think when I was younger too, like, you always think that you're more of a Casanova than you really are. And then you realize that you're not. I'm pretty sure when I was in high school, I remember I really liked this girl and we were like high school sweethearts. And then like this other, and I went to a performing arts high school, so like I was like the only straight guy in the high school too. So I remember like I was in love with this girl, and then like this other like Australian, she was Australian. I remember I was like, oh my god, this girl is amazing. She's Australian. This accent is incredible. And she's a dope actress. And then we would be in drama class all the time. So the girlfriend that I was dating, who was a dancer, I didn't see her as much. And then me and the Australian girl we were connecting. And then I was like, yeah, I think I want to start dating this Australian girl. Again, I was like 16. She was like, what? She was so hard. And I was like, I will never, like, I remember telling myself that I will always be straightforward with someone after that, because the reaction that I got from that girl was like, that was crazy. I would never. Dude, it was more than La Sopa, yo. And she was half Dominican, half Puerto Rican. So I felt the wrath. It was crazy.
It's no joke.
So,
So I did. And from that point, I was like, I'll always be straightforward. It was a big lesson for me.
El personaje es Daniel. Tell me,
I know that story was just overwhelming, right? That story was over.
Go to the next one, because
These meddling Aussies.
Oh, what do you identify most with your personaje?
Yeah, so what I identified most with Daniel Garcia was, so he's the oldest of his siblings, and I knew what that felt like, because I'm the oldest of my siblings too. I have a brother and sister, and I knew what that felt like, the responsibility and the expectations of that. And so what I brought to it when we were filming was that, just kind of just like that the person that persona of like, things need to be done. My life is pretty much set. I have a bakery, and like sort of, having everything in line and everything structured. Like I knew what that felt like, being the oldest of my siblings, and also like, Daniel's life was pretty set up, right? He had the girlfriend, he had the business already set up. I remember like, not that my parents put that on me, but I remember there was someone that I thought like she was gonna be the one, and like I had everything sort of planned out. And so I remember when I was shooting, when I got the part for Daniel, that was the one thing that I sort of brought to it, was remembering that time when I thought I was gonna marry this one person, Victor Rasuk, or that that girl was gonna be the one, but she ended up not being the one. And then also the expectations of being an eldest sibling, like, I was sort of like the dad figure for my brother and my sister, and like just with that, like just like the unexpected things that like come with that. And so, when you look at when I look at Daniel and I look at Baker and the Beauty, the pilot, you could see it almost living in his body and his shoulders, the way how he just sort of like, you know, I was like, Mom, this is how I deal with my mom. This is how I take care of my sister, my brother. Oh man, like, yo, get your stuff together. Like, stop messing around.
Yeah.
I almost want to curse. I'm so New York. You know, so that's what I brought. That's what I identified because I'm the eldest of my siblings. That's one of the things that I related to Daniel Garcia. It wasn't the baking until later. The only thing I brought to was the Blue Apron and the Hello Fresh. That's as far as the cooking went for me.
Do your siblings still listen to you?
The what?
Do your siblings still listen to you?
I think my sister has 2 kids now, so like it's like, dude, she's like looking at me like, you ain't got no kids, like you can't tell me what to do. I think so. My sister, no. I think what we do now, what our relationship is now, where it's at, is that we're only about 5 years spread apart, and so I think now we're in a different place in our relationship. Like we're like we can relate to each other as adults, and so like we're now exploring that part. Like you respect me as an adult, I respect you as as a mom, as a woman. My brother too, like he's sort of going through a whole new. He's 33. He's going through a whole new thing where he's like, I haven't left New York in years. Like I'm gonna go to Paris, and now he's in Marrakesh. He just came back from Mexico. So I think he's like discovering himself. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like now, how do you relate to like your siblings now that you're adults? Like we're all in our 30s now, so it's not like when we were teenagers and when we were in our 20s.
That scene that you did with the phone and have for your sister in the
Yeah.
series.
How sweet is that, right? That's dope. Yeah, I don't remember doing that to my actual sister in real life, but I remember this. Actually, no, I did this for my brother. So my brother was a big fan of Benicio when I was shooting Che, and I remember like getting on the phone. I told Benicio, you had to like sort of like get to know him a little longer. It wasn't like I did it right off the bat, but like I had already been filming with Benicio for like a month, and he took a liking to me. I don't know why, but he took a liking to me, and I was like, dude, Benicio, my brother's a really big fan. Like, if I called him, do you mind just saying what's up? And he did that, and I didn't see my brother's reaction, but when I saw Baker and the Beauty, and when when Belissa did that reaction, I was like saying to myself, I could only imagine that that's how my brother reacted. Yeah, I didn't, because I couldn't hear I couldn't hear my brother's reaction from Benicio, but yeah, and it was super nice of him to do that too.
Will Daniel be, without giving too much away, because we don't want any trouble, will Daniel be in any precarious situations with Michelle's character further into the series? Emotionally precarious or otherwise?
Yeah. So by the way, Michelle Veintimilla, she's such a great actress. I can't wait to the world sees more of her episodes. She's incredible. We got super lucky to get her. She's so there's a couple situations that happen that make it precarious between Daniel and Vanessa, without giving too much away. But she becomes very instrumental in the Garcia family. I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Yeah. They give her a dope storyline, actually.
It's gotta be scary.
I can't even tell you. I want to tell you, but I can't because I know I'll get in trouble. She's
No,
so
you are.
dope.
Yeah.
Like they realized early on, they were like, the writers realized early on, like, yo, we need to write more for her. Like, because after the pilot, obviously she's dope, but there's like not enough. And then like as the season goes on, they got their shit together, and they were like, we need to put more Vanessa in this.
You ever had to deal with your ex after a breakup, kind of like this?
Yeah, of course, dude.
Back to your point that everyone needs a Lewis.
That's what I'm saying. I was thinking Dan, if he ever had a Lewis run in your when he had to deal with a crazy ex.
Yeah, I feel like I always stayed for the most part, as much work as I've been blessed to have had. I feel like I've always tried to keep myself for the most part under the radar. So I haven't needed to have a Lewis. Don't know after Baker and the Beauty if I need a Lewis, but I know for sure before Baker and the Beauty I didn't. I always just try to keep under the radar. I mean, you guys know my stuff. Like I'm out there, but I'm not out there really.
Yeah, you'll be salsa dancing with Luis Guzman randomly on Hollywood.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. But
he keeps a low profile.
Yeah, by the way, it's so funny because Luis Guzman is like, out of all the actors that I was blessed to work with, he's like the most recognized actor that anywhere I walk with him, he gets more recognized than anyone else that is just as famous as he is, if not more. He gets recognized more than anyone.
Is that Rasta Monster?
Is Rasta Monster? Or a lot of people call him in Carlito's way, Pachanga. And Louis so graceful about it. He's like, hey, what's up?
Or from Narcos, right?
Or from Narcos, yeah. I've heard that a couple times when I've been with him.
He's a great guy.